I wish I would have done that differently. It's like that. You can't help but look at something like all the mistakes that you made.
One thing I actually thought about just comparing this movie to Beau is Afraid is that both Joe and Beau, they're both afraid. They both have fear as a primary motivator, but they approach them completely differently. I'm curious just kind of if there was a consistency almost that you saw in Ari Aster's sensibilities and storytelling with these characters.
I didn't at the time, but I think that you're right. They both do have this fear. I don't know that Joe really moves towards confronting that fear. I think in many ways, kind of one of the central things for him is his relationship with his wife, and something that she may have experienced that he doesn't really want to acknowledge. And it's more about how we create stories or justify our own behavior and actions to make us feel that we are confronting or addressing these issues that we're not. And that's so much of what I think maybe many of us experienced at that time. So I think that's what I was focusing on.
Sure.
Well, with Joaquin, there's a lot of talking about the script, going over things, a lot of rehearsal. And in this case, as I was rewriting the script, I went around New Mexico, went to different small towns, different counties, and I talked to sheriffs, police chiefs, mayors, public officials. I went to pueblos. I was really trying to get as broad a picture of the politics of New Mexico, but also I was trying to find like models for certain characters. And there's one sheriff in particular that I fell in love with, who struck me as a very interesting model for that character, for Joe Cross, who Joaquin plays. And Joaquin met him and loved him, and his wardrobe is based on this guy's wardrobe. He wears the same clothes. And that guy showed up to set a couple times, remember,
he was cool.
up at the crime scene. And so, so much of it was actually, about just, same with Michael and Luke, and you guys spent a lot of time with different police officers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was just about like really being in the place. And New Mexico, I grew up there. It's a place I know really well, and I've wanted to make a movie about New Mexico for so long. And so it's important when you're making a film that's regional in that way to really be there.
I do want to ask about your collaboration with Emma Stone, because this is your second time working with her after Irrational Man. But I mean, Joe clearly loves Louise, but also he's so impulsive, and he acts just so quickly without thinking. I'm kind of hoping you can talk about just developing that dynamic, as obviously she's also falling down this hole.
It was great that I knew Emma, and I've worked with her before because she was only on set for a week or so, and we had to really have a kind of a history and a life together. But I think it came. I mean, I think it wasn't as difficult as I had anticipated in some ways. Like, how are we going to have this? But maybe part of it is because while they are married and they have this history together, there's also something in which they feel like they are living in different worlds. I think that's so much of what Joe is going through, and so many of the characters in this film are going through, in which they are having these relationships with other people, but they feel as if they are existing in different worlds. And that's so much the struggle of what they're experiencing.
Sure.
It was very new for me, because normally you figure out who someone is, and then you figure out what you have to do to get there, right? And you sort of find out the destination, and then the process is the journey of making sure I can find myself in those circumstances. And with this one, I feel like we sort of just let it come organically on its own. I remember the first time I met with Ari, I kept asking him, like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And is it this? Is it this? And he was sort of like, I think you said, I don't want to reduce him too much. I don't want this to be like a caricature or some sort of cliche of what you think this person is right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And so the whole movie, I had no clue who I was playing. But I think the guy doesn't really know who he is either, and it sort of worked out somehow.
Sure.
For me, I guess with Michael, it was this constant battle of my instincts versus Michael instincts of a black guy growing up in New Mexico, and not just in New Mexico, but a very, very small town in New Mexico. Because like, you know, I know like black police officers. Well, I know a black police officer, but he's in New York. And I remember I spoke to Ari about that, and it's just like, New York is a completely, basically different world compared to like a place like this. And I didn't really understand that until we got to Truth or Consequences. I was like, okay, there's no one here. Now I know what you mean. Like, and obviously when you land in New York, it's just like, oh, like, you know, a lot going on. So it became more evident to me once I got to the location myself, and then, you know, being in location enforced all of the other ideas. You get what I'm trying to say? It's not regular for someone like that to grow up in a place like that, and actually understanding what that does to his psyche and what it does to his, you know, how he interacts with people and what he believes about the world is a very different thing.
I got a call into the office about a disturbance.
Last night, a family was murdered.
Shooters on charitable ground. This is a Pueblo case.
This is our crime scene. Get out of here.
And I mean, as far as kind of the almost macro perspective on both Joe and the film, at what point do you allow yourself to almost kind of recognize their flaws and see them at, like, from an objective perspective?
I mean, from the beginning, but I don't know how objective it is. I think in some ways almost
It's a part of you.
But hopefully,
Yeah.
like I certainly understand, like, and we all have some of the most like basic fears and most basic desires and wants for our lives, and it's just like a human experience. So I think we can identify with him, and I think, you know, more often than not, we can probably identify with each other more than we are at odds with each other. And part of what this film is like taking those brief, that small part of ourselves that feels like it's in conflict with somebody else, and through this like tech industry and this algorithm, that becomes magnified to where that becomes the most important thing and the dominant factor, and pushes us farther away from understanding how closely related we are and our kind of basic needs are. And so that's something I think the film really successfully pulls off, and why I was so interested in making the film.
Sure.
We knew it was going to be divisive. Like it's sort of just, it's about polarization. It's about division. And I, you know, and we tried to pull back as far as we could to have it be about the environment, right? Where kind of everybody is kind of in one way or another missing part of the picture,
Sure.
right?
Nobody's acting in bad faith. Nobody is evil in this movie. They're just all people acting on their own perspective, and
Everybody in the movie cares about the world. Every character cares about the world, knows that something's wrong, has a feeling that something's wrong, but they all just have different pictures of what that is.
How did we get here? And even worse, is it worth it? At the cost of being at war with your neighbors? That's why I'm running for mayor. Mayor of Eddington.
what is your relationship with your own work? Like, can you go back and watch your previous performances, I mean, without judgment?
No. I mean, no, without judgment, no. No, of course not. But I haven't done that because, yeah, there would be a lot of judgment in that, and that's very difficult. But imagine like everything in life, like I imagine you look back on relationships that you've had and you like re-examine them like years later and you go like, fuck, I wish I would have done that differently. And so it's like that. You can't help but look at something like all the mistakes that you made. So
Both about the what ifs, the choices.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm curious just what your process is as far as kind of collaborating with different filmmakers and what you're looking for in those relationships.
I think in some ways it's very simple with the director for me in that I just want somebody that, it seems obvious, but just has a really unique vision, right? That they do something that no one else can do, that you can't replicate what they do. You can try, but it's just never gonna be the same, right? And so I think that's kind of the most important thing for me. And then can they find something in me that I haven't explored before, a different way that I might have in approaching a character, and are they going to find, are they going to be able to challenge me and elicit something from me? And then will I be able to be around them for 3 months and like not hate them? Like sometimes it really just comes down to like, because you're spending like hours upon hours with somebody and you're talking about things that are kind of happening in the world, but in the world of the film, in the world at large, and your own personal experiences. And things can get heated and intense and also humorous and fun. And so you go through that like this really intense, condensed period, this relationship with somebody that's like really intense for 3 months. And so you're like, I want to remain friends with them and I want to bring out the best in each other while we challenge each other. So I think those are kind of what I look for.
I think that's what you need for the collaboration. That's awesome.
That's right. And also just like if they'll have me, like I'm available and if they'll have me.
Your pain is not a coincidence. You are not a coincidence. We
are not a coincidence.
Never just tired. Look, it's going on.